So you did a great job with your group activity. You did a great job with our activity. What I want you to do now is an independent activity. So I want you to pick 5 objects, similar to how we started. And I want you to list 5 physical properties for each object. You cannot use the same properties for each one. So you can't do the color for every single one of them, the shape for every single one of them. You can overlap, but you can't use the same ones for each. So go ahead and pick 5 objects, whichever 5 you like. You're going to list 5 physical properties for each, and I'm going to come around and check them for you. You can do the same object as your partner. That doesn't matter if you don't want to divide them up that way. Go ahead and write which property you're listing next to each word. So if you wrote the word small, go ahead and put that you were talking about size or length, and so on.
If I use size, can I use length?
You certainly may. It's a good question.
How many were we supposed to do for each property?
5 and 5. 5 objects, 5 properties of each. And not the same 5 properties for all of them. When you use those 2 words, viscous is actually not necessarily a measurement of viscosity. So
I get A minus.
I'm just saying you might want to put, yeah, that it's not necessarily a measurement of viscosity. So you'd want to put.
What would be a measurement of viscosity?
You'd want to be putting. You'd actually have to measure it, so we wouldn't be able to do that experiment right now during this lesson, but it's actually something that you would measure, and we'll talk about that a little later in the unit.
2 more.
So that would be helpful, yeah. Just like we don't have the balance, so you can't take an accurate mass. That's another thing that we don't have the ability to take that accurately during this lesson.
What is this?
Rubber band.
No, I know.
Oh.
I forgot what when we squeeze the tennis ball.
Well, you can talk about it as being
I want to
the
say
elasticity,
okay.
pliability.
What's
When we talked about it with the tennis ball, we were talking about the density of it, but that's probably not the best way to describe it. Probably the best way to describe it would be its elasticity. That's probably the best way to talk about that. Because we're just at the beginning of the lesson, or at the beginning of the unit, as we go farther into the unit, we'll make things much more specific in terms of our categories. But I like that you're thinking about how to make it more specific. Which objects did you choose, Chris? Sorry. Okay. I see the penny.
Yep, so I'm working on the rubber band.
Okay. Okay. So I notice you only have 3 here.
I was going to come back to it. I'm struggling with the honey stick.
Okay. Well, I noticed you may want to talk about its texture. How does it feel?
But I already talked about the texture.
You can overlap.
No.
You can overlap as long as you don't overlap everything, because you don't have density over here. You can have it. You can. I'm sorry, because you know what I'm saying. You can use texture in both places as long as you don't use everything in both places. Yeah.
The question.
Yes.
If I say that this is made out of wood,
Yes.
is that state of matter, or is that
State of matter would be solid, liquid, or gas.
Oh, so it's
So
not
that would be
state of matter.
composition of it.
Okay.
Yeah. Nice. I like the way you're organizing. That's very easy for me to read.
anything for you, miss?
Hey, it's always nice when my students make my life a little easier. Alyssa brought up viscosity, so I'm just going to add that up here to our list, even though it's something that we can't measure today because we don't have the right tools for it. It's another state of matter that we can put up there. So. It is pliable.
Is that a state of matter?
For metals, you can talk about that in a way that you don't talk about it with other materials, because with the metals, some of them are and some of them are not. So you can use that for metals as a category, yeah. And I can write that up too. Malleability is the actual word that you use with the metals, but pliability is pretty much the same thing and uses for a broader can be used for a broader category. So I'm going to put malleability. But that's only for metals. Metals also have their luster, whereas other objects don't have that. So that's whether it's shiny or dull. All done?
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Nice.
Thanks.
Yeah, good job. I noticed that you don't overlap, but you use state of matter a lot. That's a good shortcut. Yeah.
I don't know how to describe water.
Okay. Well, what do you notice about it? You have its color, you have its state of matter, the texture is wet, okay? Takes the shape of its container is actually the definition of a liquid. Something that's okay. Well, it takes the shape of it, so that would be difficult to do for here, but the definition of a liquid is that it takes the shape of its container.
Okay.
That's one of the things that defines it as a state of matter. But yeah, the water is a little bit harder, isn't it? If we had a thermometer, you could take its temperature, although I suppose that's not a real physical property because it changes so much. What could you do with the water? If we had the stuff, you could measure its viscosity. Or we could do pH. There's lots of different physical properties that I guess we could do, but we don't have the stuff for them. I'll take 4 for that. That's good enough. Yeah.